Long before theme parks, castles, and animated worlds became part of everyday life, Walt Disney lived in a house that felt like it had stepped straight out of a fairy tale. Tucked quietly into the hills of Los Angeles, this home was not loud or flashy. It did not scream fame or power. Instead, it whispered imagination. This was Walt Disney's Storybook mansion, a place where creativity rested after long days at the studio. It was a house built not just with wood and stone, but with dreams, patience, and storytelling woven into every corner. For Walt Disney, this mansion was never meant to be a symbol of wealth. It was meant to feel warm, comforting, and magical, just like the stories he shared with the world. This home reflected who he truly was, a dreamer who believed magic should feel personal. Walt Disney's life in the early 1930s. In the early 1930s, Walt Disney was not yet the global legend we know today. He was successful, but his future was still uncertain. Animation was risky. Full-length animated films had never truly worked before. Many people believed cartoons were only good for short laughs, not serious storytelling. But Walt Disney believed otherwise. At the same time, America was struggling. The Great Depression had shaken the country. Jobs were scarce. Money was tight. Even successful people lived carefully, never knowing what tomorrow might bring. Despite this uncertain world, Walt Disney was dreaming bigger than ever, choosing the land in Los Feliz. In the early 1930s, Walt Disney purchased a quiet piece of land in Los Feliz, a peaceful neighborhood near Griffith Park in Los Angeles. This area offered rolling hills, fresh air, and distance from the noise of Hollywood. For Walt, location mattered deeply. He wanted a place where his family could feel safe, a place where his daughters could grow up surrounded by nature, a place where he could think, imagine, and relax after long nights of creative work. This land was not chosen by accident. From the hills, one could see wide views of Los Angeles, stretching toward the city and beyond. The setting felt calm, almost Storybook itself, perfect for a man whose mind never stopped creating worlds. Building a home, not a monument. Once the land was secured, Walt Disney moved quickly to build a home. But his vision was very clear. He did not want a cold mansion. He did not want a grand palace meant to impress strangers. He wanted a family home that felt alive. Construction began soon after, and by 1932, the Storybook mansion was complete. From the start, Walt Disney imagined the house as a place where imagination could breathe. Every wall, window, and detail needed to feel welcoming, not intimidating. The architect behind the magic. To bring his vision to life, Walt Disney worked with renowned architect Frank Crowhurst. Frank Crowhurst was known for his ability to blend historic European styles with modern comfort. He understood how to create homes that felt both grand and personal at the same time. Together, Walt Disney and Frank Crowhurst designed a house that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale, but functioned perfectly for real life. This balance was key. A true storybook design. The mansion was designed in a storybook architectural style, a popular trend in the 1920s and 1930s. This style borrowed heavily from fairy tales, medieval cottages, and old European villages. Instead of straight lines and sharp edges, the home featured soft curves, sloping roofs, decorative chimneys, small towers, and turrets. Nothing about the house felt stiff or boring. The structure looked playful, almost as if it had grown naturally from the land. To visitors, it felt like a place where magical characters might step outside at any moment. A blend of old-world styles. The mansion did not follow just one design tradition. Instead, it blended several classic styles into one harmonious whole. The home drew inspiration from French provincial country homes, Tudor architecture, neo-Gothic design. Each style added its own personality. The French elements brought elegance. The Tudor features added warmth. The Gothic touches gave the house mystery and depth. Together, they created a home that felt timeless, neither old nor modern, but perfectly balanced. A home built. During the Great Depression, one of the most surprising facts about Walt Disney's Storybook mansion is when it was built. Construction happened during the Great Depression, a time when millions of Americans were unemployed and struggling. But this difficult moment also created an unusual opportunity. Because jobs were scarce, many highly skilled craftsmen were eager to work. Woodworkers, glass artists, stone masons, and painters all found employment on Disney's home. Materials were also more affordable during this time. As a result, the mansion was built quickly, in just about 10 weeks. A small fortune, carefully spent. The total cost of building the home was around $50,000 at the time. Today, that would be roughly $1 million after adjusting for inflation. This might sound expensive, but for a home of this quality and detail, it was surprisingly reasonable. At any given moment, between 50 and 100 workers were involved in construction. Every detail mattered, handcrafted details everywhere. Unlike many modern homes built with speed and machines, Walt Disney's house was crafted almost entirely by hand. Workers carved wooden beams by hand, painted detailed ceiling murals, installed stained glass piece by piece, shaped stone and brick carefully. One of the most impressive features was the circular staircase in the foyer. This staircase became a centerpiece of the home, welcoming guests with elegance and flow. The stained glass windows were not simple decorations. Each piece was carefully placed, allowing light to enter the home in colorful, magical patterns. Life inside the mansion. After the home was finished in 1932, Walt Disney moved in with his wife, Lillian Disney, and their two daughters, Diane Disney and Sharon Disney. This house became their family sanctuary for 18 years. Inside these walls, the Disney family laughed, rested, and lived normal lives, far from the spotlight. To the children, it was simply home. To Walt, it was a place where his imagination could recharge. A creative explosion begins. While living in this house, Walt Disney entered one of the most important periods of his career. Inside this home, he worked on ideas that would change entertainment forever. It was during these years that Walt Disney created Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first full-length animated feature film, other early studio successes that shaped animation history. After long days at the studio, he returned home to a space that reflected the same magic he was creating on screen. The house did not distract him. It inspired him. A house that felt like a fairy tale. From the outside, the mansion looked like something from a storybook illustration. The turrets and gabled roofs made it feel like a small castle hidden in the hills. Nothing about the house felt harsh or cold. The design invited curiosity. It felt friendly, almost alive. This was not accidental. Walt Disney believed that environments shape emotions. He wanted his home to feel hopeful, warm, and imaginative, and it did. Inside the fairy tale walls, stepping inside Walt Disney's Storybook mansion felt very different from walking into most Hollywood homes of the time. Instead of cold marble halls or stiff formal rooms, the interior welcomed people with warmth, color, and comfort. This was not a house designed to impress strangers. It was a house designed to feel lived in. Every room told a story. Every corner carried intention, and nothing felt accidental. The grand entrance and foyer. As guests entered the mansion, they were immediately greeted by a sense of quiet wonder. The foyer did not overwhelm visitors with size, but it did capture attention with detail. The most striking feature was the circular staircase. Unlike straight staircases that simply move people upward, this staircase flowed gently, guiding the eye and body in a soft curve. It felt graceful, almost theatrical, yet never dramatic. The staircase symbolized movement, imagination, and progress. For Walt Disney, motion was life. Animation itself was movement, and this staircase quietly reflected that belief. Stained glass that told stories. Light entered the foyer through beautifully crafted stained glass windows. These windows were not bright or flashy. Instead, they filtered sunlight into gentle colors that shifted throughout the day. Morning light felt warm and golden. Afternoon light felt calm and peaceful. Evening light felt soft and reflective. Each stained glass panel was carefully designed and hand-installed. The colors were chosen to complement the woodwork and stone rather than overpower them. This play of light helped the house feel alive, changing mood with the time of day, much like scenes in a film. The power of handcrafted woodwork. One of the most defining features of the mansion's interior was its woodwork. Throughout the house, walls, ceilings, and doorways were lined with carved wooden details. These were not factory-made decorations. Skilled craftsmen shaped every beam and panel by hand. The wood brought warmth to every space. Beamed ceilings made rooms feel grounded and cozy. Carved panels added texture and depth. Built-in cabinetry blended beauty with function. This craftsmanship gave the home an old-world charm, making it feel as if it had existed for generations, even though it was newly built. The living room, the heart of the home. At the center of the mansion was the grand living room, a space designed for gathering, conversation, and quiet evenings. The ceiling rose high above, supported by exposed wooden beams that added strength and character. Large windows lined the walls, allowing sunlight to pour into the room. From these windows, the family could look out toward the backyard and even see parts of downtown Los Angeles in the distance. Despite its size, the room felt inviting, not formal. A fireplace that brought everyone together. The focal point of the living room was a large fireplace built with stone and careful detail. This fireplace was not just decorative, it was meant to be used. On cool evenings, the Disney family would gather around the fire. Walt Disney often sat quietly, thinking or sketching ideas in his mind. Lillian Disney created a sense of calm and balance, grounding the family. For Diane Disney and Sharon Disney, the fireplace meant warmth, safety, and home. Ceilings that told. Silent stories. One of the most surprising features inside the mansion was the ceilings. Instead of plain white surfaces, many rooms featured painted or vaulted ceilings. Some had exposed beams arranged in artistic patterns. Others included subtle painted designs that added personality without distraction. These ceilings created a feeling of depth and imagination. People often don't look up, but in this house, looking up was part of the experience. The ceilings reminded visitors that creativity does not belong only on walls or screens. It belongs everywhere. A home built for family, not fame. Unlike many Hollywood homes filled with rooms that went unused, Walt Disney's mansion was designed for daily life. Rooms flowed naturally into one another. There were no sharp separations between show spaces and private spaces. Everything felt connected. This design choice reflected Walt Disney's personality. He believed storytelling should feel natural, not forced. His home followed the same philosophy. The dining room, elegant but comfortable. One wing of the house featured a beautiful dining room, designed for family meals as well as guests. Large French doors opened directly to the outdoors, allowing fresh air and garden views to enter the space. This connection between inside and outside made meals feel relaxed and peaceful. Above, the ceiling was decorated with painted details, set between interlaced wooden beams. The artwork was subtle, never distracting, but always present. Meals here were about connection, not ceremony. The kitchen, a functional masterpiece. Just beyond the dining room was the eat-in kitchen, a space designed for both cooking and gathering. At the center stood a large island, giving the room balance and flow. Countertops were made of smooth marble, while custom cabinetry provided both beauty and storage. Stained glass windows added character, filtering light into the room while maintaining privacy. This kitchen was not designed to impress guests. It was designed to work. It was practical, warm, and filled with quiet charm, a home that blended art and comfort. Throughout the house, artisanal tile work, custom light fixtures, and hand-painted details added layers of personality. No two rooms felt exactly the same. Each space had its own mood, shaped by light, color, and texture. The design never shouted. Instead, it whispered creativity, a place where magic could rest. After long days at the studio, Walt Disney returned to this home not to work, but to breathe. This mansion was where ideas settled, where imagination rested before being reborn on screen. It was not filled with Disney characters on every wall. Instead, the magic was subtle, woven into architecture, light, and craftsmanship. This balance made the home timeless. Why this house mattered so much. For Walt Disney, this house represented a turning point in his life. He was no longer a struggling animator. He was no longer chasing survival, but he also wasn't chasing excess. Instead, he chose a home that reflected who he was becoming, a storyteller with responsibility, vision, and heart, private rooms, creative rituals, and family life. As much as Walt Disney's Storybook mansion felt magical to visitors, its most meaningful spaces were the private ones. These were the rooms where the Disney family lived their everyday lives, far from cameras, crowds, and expectations. Behind the fairy tale exterior was a deeply personal home shaped around routine, comfort, and quiet creativity. For Walt Disney, privacy was essential. His work demanded constant imagination, and imagination needed calm. This house gave him exactly that. The upstairs world of the Disney family. The second floor of the mansion was designed as a retreat from the outside world. Unlike the open and social spaces below, the upstairs rooms were more intimate, softer in tone, and meant only for family. Here, the ceilings lowered slightly, creating a sense of closeness. Light entered gently through windows placed to frame trees and sky rather than streets or buildings. The goal was peace, not distraction. This separation between public and private space reflected how Walt Disney lived his life. He gave the world his ideas, but he guarded his inner life carefully. The master bedroom, quiet and grounded. The master bedroom, shared by Walt Disney and Lillian Disney, was not extravagant. It was calm, orderly, and warm. The room reflected Lillian's steady influence on the family. While Walt was imaginative and driven, Lillian brought balance and structure. The design avoided excess decoration. Soft colors, gentle light, and thoughtful furniture placement created an atmosphere of rest. This was a room meant for recovery after long days, not display. Attached to the bedroom was a bathroom designed with comfort in mind. Dual vanities allowed space for daily routines, while a large shower and central bathtub emphasized relaxation rather than luxury. Everything served a purpose, and nothing felt unnecessary. A home built around routine. Despite his creative genius, Walt Disney lived by routine. He believed discipline supported imagination, not limited it. The layout of the home supported this belief. Morning light filled the bedrooms early, encouraging natural waking hours. Hallways flowed easily, making movement through the house smooth and unhurried. Nothing felt rushed or chaotic. This structure helped Walt Disney return to his work each day focused and clear-minded. Bedrooms for Diane and Sharon. The bedrooms of Diane Disney and Sharon Disney were designed to feel safe, playful, and personal. These were not formal children's rooms meant to impress guests. They were real spaces for growing up. Natural light, cozy proportions, and thoughtful details gave the rooms warmth. From these rooms, the girls could look out onto the gardens and hills, reinforcing a sense of openness and freedom. Their father may have built imaginary worlds for millions of children, but for his own daughters, he focused on something simpler. He gave them stability. Thou, family room, where evenings came together. One of the most cherished spaces on the upper level was the family room, a place where the Disneys gathered at the end of the day. This room featured vaulted ceilings that added height without making the space feel cold. Soft furnishings and warm materials encouraged long conversations, quiet reading, and shared moments. It was here that the family relaxed together, away from deadlines and studio pressures. For Walt Disney, these evenings mattered deeply. They reminded him why he worked so hard and who he was working for. The sleeping porch, a breath of nature. Connected to the family room was a former sleeping porch, a feature common in homes built before modern air conditioning. This porch allowed fresh air to flow freely, especially during warm California nights. From this space, the family could hear nighttime sounds and feel cool breezes drifting through the hills. It connected the indoors with the natural world outside, creating a sense of calm that technology could not replace. This porch reflected an older way of living, one rooted in patience and simplicity. It was a reminder that comfort did not always come from innovation, but from understanding nature. Walt Disney's private theater. One of the most fascinating rooms in the house was Walt Disney's private theater. This was not a grand cinema filled with velvet seats and gold trim. It was practical, personal, and deeply connected to his work. In this room, Walt Disney watched daily film footage from the studio. He reviewed scenes, studied animation movement, and reflected on stories in progress. Sometimes he screened finished films before their release. This space allowed him to see his work away from the pressure of the studio. Here, films were not business products. They were stories. The theater symbolized how closely his home life and creative life were connected. A place to think without noise. What made this house truly special was not any single room, but the environment as a whole. The mansion protected Walt Disney's creativity by surrounding him with calm rather than chaos. The hills blocked city noise. The gardens softened the air. The architecture encouraged reflection. This atmosphere allowed ideas to form naturally. Walt Disney did not force imagination. He allowed its space to grow. The cottage where childhood lived. Outside the main house stood a small play cottage where Diane Disney and Sharon Disney spent countless hours. This tiny structure was built just for them, scaled to a child's world. Here, they played games, imagined adventures, and lived stories of their own. For Walt Disney, this cottage represented something deeply important. It showed his belief that childhood imagination deserved respect. This small building still remains on the property today, unchanged in spirit, even as the world around it has evolved. A house that balanced genius and normal life. Despite his fame, Walt Disney wanted his home life to feel ordinary. He did not want his children growing up inside a monument to success. He wanted them to grow up inside a family. This balance is what made the Storybook mansion so powerful. It held greatness without showing off. It supported creativity without demanding attention. In this house, Walt Disney was not a legend. He was a husband, a father, and a storyteller preparing for the next dream. Gardens, growth, and the decision to leave. While the interior of Walt Disney's Storybook mansion reflected imagination and calm, the outdoor spaces completed the story. The land surrounding the house was not treated as decoration. It was an extension of the home itself, shaped to offer peace, inspiration, and room to breathe. The property sat on a little more than an acre of land, nestled into the gentle hills of Los Feliz. From nearly every angle, the house felt protected by nature. Trees softened the edges of the structure, and gardens framed the home like a living picture. For Walt Disney, the outdoors mattered just as much as the rooms inside. A landscape designed for calm. The gardens surrounding the mansion were carefully planned, not overly formal and not wild or neglected. They were designed to feel natural, as if the house had always belonged there. Flower beds added soft color without overwhelming the senses. Trees provided shade and privacy. Pathways encouraged slow walks rather than hurried movement. This landscape helped slow time. After intense days at the studio, Walt Disney often found relief simply by being outside. The quiet of the garden allowed his thoughts to settle. Ideas that felt tangled indoors often became clear once he stepped into the open air. A space for family and reflection. The outdoor areas were not built for large parties or public gatherings. They were meant for family life. Lillian Disney spent time tending to plants and enjoying the peace of the garden. She valued beauty that felt useful and grounding, and the landscape gave her that balance. For Diane Disney and Sharon Disney, the grounds were a place to explore. They played freely, ran between trees, and created their own small adventures just steps away from the house. This connection to nature helped the children grow up with a sense of freedom that was rare in Hollywood families. The driveway and arrival experience. The driveway leading to the mansion curved gently, guiding visitors toward the home rather than pointing straight at it. This design choice softened the sense of arrival. Instead of a dramatic entrance meant to impress, the approach felt welcoming. It was as if the house revealed itself slowly, allowing guests time to absorb its charm. This reflected Walt Disney's belief that the best stories unfold gradually. Nothing needed to be rushed. Changes over time. As years passed, the property changed in small but meaningful ways. After the Disney family moved out, some portions of the original land were sold, reducing the size of the estate. A swimming pool was later added to the property, reflecting the changing lifestyles of future owners. While the pool was not part of Walt Disney's original vision, it was placed in a way that respected the existing layout. Despite these changes, the soul of the property remained intact, the cottage that stayed behind. One of the most touching details of the estate is that the small play cottage built for Diane Disney and Sharon Disney still remains on the property. Even as ownership changed and renovations occurred, this tiny structure was preserved. It stands as a quiet reminder of childhood laughter and simple joy. For many people, this cottage feels just as meaningful as the mansion itself. It represents Walt Disney's belief that imagination begins early and deserves space to grow. Why the house was no longer enough. By the late 1940s, Walt Disney's life had changed dramatically. His studio had grown larger, his responsibilities had multiplied, his ambitions had expanded beyond films into new and untested ideas. At the same time, the needs of his family were evolving. Lillian Disney wanted more space for gardening. She dreamed of land where she could truly immerse herself in nature. Walt Disney, on the other hand, had developed a new passion: model trains, the dream of a backyard railroad. One of Walt Disney's lesser-known passions was railroads. Trains fascinated him. He saw them not just as machines, but as moving stories. He wanted to build a rideable miniature train in his backyard, complete with tracks, tunnels, and landscapes. The Storybook Mansion's property, beautiful as it was, simply did not offer enough space for this dream. This desire was not childish. It was deeply connected to his creative process. Trains represented movement, progress, and connection, themes that later shaped Disneyland itself. The move to Holmby Hills. In 1950, the Disney family made the decision to leave their beloved Storybook Mansion. They moved to a much larger estate in Holmby Hills, often referred to as a mega mansion. This new home provided more land, space for gardens, room for the backyard railroad. The move was not about status. It was about practicality and future vision. Still, leaving the Los Feliz house was emotional. Closing a chapter. For Walt Disney, the Storybook Mansion marked a specific chapter of his life. It was the place where he proved full-length animation could succeed. It was where his children spent their early years. It was where ideas quietly formed before changing the world. When the family left, they did not leave behind failure or regret. They left behind fulfillment. The house had done its job. A home that never lost its meaning. Even after the Disneys moved out, the mansion continued to be recognized as something special. New owners respected its history. Renovations focused on preservation rather than reinvention. The architecture still spoke of imagination. The rooms still carried warmth. The gardens still softened the land. The home never became just another Hollywood property. Why this house still matters. The Storybook Mansion matters because it shows a different side of Walt Disney. It reveals a man who valued quiet as much as applause, family as much as fame, and patience as much as ambition. This house was not built to celebrate success. It was built to support creativity. And in doing so, it became part of history. After Walt Disney, ownership changes and a living legacy. When Walt Disney passed away in 1966, the world mourned the loss of a visionary who had reshaped entertainment forever. Yet, long before his death, he had already moved on from the Storybook Mansion in Los Feliz. Still, the house remained deeply tied to his story, quietly carrying the memory of the years when his greatest ideas first took shape. After the Disney family left in 1950, the mansion entered a new phase of its life. Like many historic homes connected to famous figures, it would pass through different hands, each owner leaving a small mark while inheriting a much larger legacy. A house that refused to become ordinary. Even as time passed, the mansion never lost its identity. While many Hollywood homes were torn down or heavily remodeled, this one stood apart. Its architecture was too distinctive to ignore, and its connection to Walt Disney gave it a meaning beyond real estate value. New owners understood that this was not just a building, it was a piece of cultural history. The challenge was finding a way to modernize the home without erasing the personality that made it special. Fortunately, most changes were done with care. Renovations that respected the past. Over the decades, the house underwent several renovations and refurbishments. These updates focused on improving comfort and functionality, rather than changing the spirit of the home. Modern systems were added quietly, hidden behind original walls and beams. Kitchens and bathrooms were updated to meet contemporary standards, but the handcrafted woodwork, stained glass, and architectural details were preserved. The goal was not to transform the mansion into something new. It was to help it survive. This careful approach allowed the home to remain recognizable, even as it adapted to modern living. The surrounding land grows smaller. As Los Angeles expanded and property values increased, portions of the original land were eventually sold. What was once a more secluded estate became part of a denser neighborhood. Despite this change, the mansion still retained a sense of privacy. Mature trees and thoughtful landscaping continued to shield it from the outside world. Though the land shrank, the house itself remained emotionally large, still carrying the weight of its history. A symbol within Disney history. As the years passed, historians and Disney enthusiasts began to see the Storybook Mansion as more than a former residence. It became a symbol of a critical moment in Walt Disney's life. This was the house where he lived while releasing films like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. These movies did not just succeed, they defined what animation could be. Knowing that these ideas were formed while Walt Disney walked these halls added depth to his story. It reminded people that creativity does not come from studios alone, but from quiet places where thoughts can grow. Recognition, beyond the Disney world. The mansion gradually gained recognition as a historical and cultural landmark, even without formal museum status. Its value was not measured by ticket sales or exhibitions, but by influence. Architecture lovers admired its rare storybook design. Historians respected its preservation. Fans of Walt Disney viewed it as a sacred space where imagination once lived in its most human form. The house became a bridge between fantasy and reality. A new owner with a creative eye. In more recent years, the Storybook Mansion found a new owner in Timur Bekmambetov, a well-known film director. His ownership felt fitting. As a filmmaker himself, Timur Bekmambetov understood the importance of creative spaces. He recognized that environments shape storytelling, and that this house was built by someone who deeply understood that truth. Rather than reinvent the mansion, he maintained its historic character while allowing it to function as a modern home. This respectful stewardship helped preserve the house's emotional authenticity. Why the mansion still captivates people. People remain fascinated by the Storybook Mansion, not because it is the largest or most expensive home in Los Angeles, but because it feels honest. It represents a time when Walt Disney was still proving himself, still taking risks, and still building his legacy one idea at a time. The house reminds us that greatness often grows quietly before it is recognized loudly. Standing there, one can imagine Walt Disney thinking through stories, adjusting scenes in his mind, and wondering if audiences would believe in his dreams. A living piece of imagination. Unlike museums frozen in time, the Storybook Mansion remains a living home. People still move through its rooms. Light still filters through its stained glass. Wind still passes through its trees. This continued life keeps the house relevant. It does not exist only in memory. It exists in the present, and because of that, it continues to inspire why this house matters more than ever. In an age of digital screens and fast creativity, the Storybook Mansion reminds us of something important. True imagination needs space, patience, and calm. Walt Disney did not create his greatest works in chaos. He created them in a home that protected his focus and supported his family. This house proves that environments matter. The story still unfolds. Though decades have passed since Walt Disney last lived there, the Storybook Mansion continues to tell its story. It speaks through architecture, through silence, and through the ideas it once nurtured. It stands as proof that even legends need a place to rest, reflect, and begin again. The house that protected a dream. When people think of Walt Disney, they often picture castles, fireworks, and theme parks filled with color and noise. But long before those worlds existed, there was a quiet house in Los Feliz where ideas were allowed to grow slowly and safely. The Storybook Mansion was never meant to be a monument to success. It was meant to be a refuge. This home stood during a fragile moment in Walt Disney's life, when his dreams were bold but unproven. and failure still felt possible. Inside these walls, he carried the weight of risk, responsibility, and doubt. Yet the house never reflected fear. Instead, it offered calm, warmth, and stability when he needed it most. A space where imagination could breathe. The Storybook Mansion mattered because it did not demand anything from its owner. It did not ask Walt Disney to impress guests or display his achievements. It simply gave him space. Space to think. Space to rest. Space to imagine what had never been done before. The soft curves of the architecture, the filtered light through stained glass, and the quiet gardens outside all worked together to slow the pace of life. In that stillness, ideas became clearer, stories found shape, dreams became plans. This was not accidental. Walt Disney understood that imagination needed protection. The house became that protection. The balance between family and vision. Inside the Storybook Mansion, Walt Disney was not just a creator. He was a husband to Lillian Disney and a father to Diane Disney and Sharon Disney. The home allowed these roles to exist side by side without conflict. Family life grounded him. Routine gave him structure. The house made room for both. This balance is what allowed his work to endure. His stories were not born from isolation, but from a life filled with connection, responsibility, and love. The warmth people feel in Disney films did not come from fantasy alone. It came from a real home where those values were lived every day. A house that marked a turning point. The years spent in the Storybook Mansion marked a turning point in entertainment history. It was during this time that animation proved it could tell deep, emotional, and lasting stories. It was during this time that Walt Disney moved from experimenter to pioneer. The house did not create those achievements, but it supported them quietly. It stood behind the scenes, doing what great homes do best. It held life steady while history unfolded. Why the mansion still speaks today. Even now, decades later, the Storybook Mansion continues to resonate with people. Not because it is open to the public, but because its meaning is easy to understand. It represents a truth that often gets forgotten. Great ideas are not born in constant noise. They are born in places where the mind feels safe. This house reminds us that behind every great legacy is a private space where doubt was faced, patience was practiced, and belief was tested. The legacy beyond the walls. While Walt Disney eventually moved on to larger projects and grander visions, the influence of this home never left him. The love of detail, the respect for environment, and the belief that surroundings shape emotion would later appear in Disneyland itself. In many ways, the Storybook Mansion was a prototype, not for a park, but for a philosophy. A belief that places matter. A belief that storytelling begins long before an audience arrives. A belief that imagination deserves care. A quiet landmark of American creativity. The Storybook Mansion stands today as a quiet landmark, not marked by signs or crowds, but by meaning. It does not need explanation. Its walls carry their own story. It is a reminder that legends are human before they are icons. That before the world believed in Walt Disney, he believed in his stories while sitting in a house that felt like a fairy tale come to life. The final thought. When we look at Walt Disney's Storybook Mansion, we are not just looking at a house. We are looking at a moment when imagination was still fragile, when success was not guaranteed, and when creativity needed shelter. This house gave that shelter, and because of that, it holds a quiet place in history, standing not as a symbol of fame, but as a guardian of a dream that changed the world. Closing reflection. After seeing where Walt Disney lived during one of the most important periods of his life, the question remains, was the house as magical as you imagined, or was it even more powerful because it was simple, warm, and human?